What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Meek, the Uber Geek. Welcome to Pretty Dece, your daily entertainment and pop culture show. Let's jump into the world of gaming today, specifically card gaming. Some of you might know that I'm a big fan of Magic: The Gathering, the kind of granddaddy of collectible card games. It's been running for 25 years. And they hold events all over the place. So your local store in your hometown will run events like Friday Night Magic, where you can show up with your deck of cards and play with other like-minded people, or show up and draft where they give you the cards and you make a deck out of your cards that you pick and then play with those people. Or there are events that get larger than that, and there are these events called Grand Prix. And I just attended Grand Prix Indianapolis, which happens to be very close to my home here, and I wanted to tell you about my experience at Grand Prix Indianapolis this past weekend. So you may know, you may not, if you don't keep up with minute Magic: The Gathering details, but a company called Channel Fireball recently got the exclusive contract to run these Grand Prix here in 2018. So it used to be these would kind of get doled out to various companies. There were a few large companies that would run these Grand Prix events. Now Channel Fireball is the kind of sole runner of these events, and these are kind of big deals. You have Magic professionals, yes, there are pro players in Magic: The Gathering, that show up to these events, that compete in the main event, that do incredibly well. There's a feature match area that gets streamed out to the internet, so thousands of people watch these people play Magic live, and there's a lot of money at stake. You know, the prize pool is very high. There's the potential to get an invite to the Pro Tour, where even more money is at stake and even more coverage is going on. So Magic can become a very big deal, and it starts at things like the Grand Prix here. Now, I showed up to the Grand Prix because of something very cool that was happening at the Grand Prix, and that was we had the very first ever Pauper side event at a Grand Prix. Pauper is a format of Magic, and the name, as you would probably guess, indicates that it's very cheap to get into. You see, Pauper is a format that restricts the card pool of cards that you can add to your deck to just common cards. Cards have rarities assigned to them. There's common, uncommon, rare, mythic rare. And typically the correlation is that those cards get more expensive to buy as the price goes up. And that's simply because of the number that you find in the pack. So if I open a pack of cards, it'll have one rare in it, or it'll have one card in the rare slot. It'll have a handful of uncommons, and the rest of the pack will be common cards. So cards that are commons are typically like pennies on the dollar. They're very cheap to obtain. And Pauper is a format that limits decks to just those cards. So you can build the top decks in the entire format, the best of the best tier 1 for, $60, $70. It's typically very, very cheap. And historically, Pauper has been a format that's only been played online, on Magic Online. It has a very flourishing community there, tons of tournaments going on, lots of people playing it, but it hasn't necessarily made the full transition over into paper Magic, where I play with the actual cardboard cards in front of a real human being at an actual event. And this is sort of the first take on that. Channel Fireball is trying out the addition of Pauper to their events. They've added it as side events here at 4 different Grand Prix, including Indianapolis, the one that I went to. And I gotta say, it is a blast. Pauper is an extremely fun format to play in Magic. You might initially think that, well, if you're only playing with common cards, then maybe the decks aren't powerful, maybe they can't do cool stuff, and that's definitely not the case. There have been some incredibly powerful, even broken cards printed at common rarity over the history of Magic, and Pauper has access to all of them. There's just a very small ban list of cards that are actually too broken to include in the format, but you can still do some really incredible, really powerful things. And many Pauper decks could easily beat decks that are running in Standard right now, which is the kind of current crop of cards where anything goes in the past 2 years of Magic releases. Pauper decks are really powerful and really fun to play. There are tons of viable strategies in Pauper decks, tons of stuff that can easily win a tournament. It's not like it's dominated by a single deck. and it's in a very kind of fun, healthy format. And people were super excited to come out and play Paper Pauper for the first time. This event had over 200 people, something like 215 people entered this event. Keeping in mind that this is just a side event of a Grand Prix. It only runs for 3 rounds, and it costs $35 to enter. So there's a big kind of hurdle to get into this, but people came out in droves because this is such a fun format and such a cool thing to be added to the schedule for the Grand Prix. So it seems like, the support was huge, the turnout was huge. Hopefully we get to see more Pauper events, and I would love to see eventually a whole main event of a Grand Prix be focused just on Pauper. That would be extremely, extremely fun. And if you're looking to get into Magic but didn't really want to, drop the $300, $1,000 it might seem like you would need to buy a deck in Modern or Standard, maybe go look at Pauper, especially Pauper Online. You'll have a near endless supply of opponents, and you'll be able to get into a deck for very, very cheaply, and you'll get to play some very strong, very competitive, very thoughtful Magic along the way. Now, the event at the Channel Fireball Grand Prix was run incredibly well. There was actually a little hiccup in pairings because there were so many people that signed up for the event that they had kind of a problem. Like, people showed up without their names on the list. We kind of crashed the system with how many people showed up and how many people they tried to enter. So yeah, it was a little bit of a wait while they sorted that out and while they told you what table to go to for the first round. But everyone was still in good spirits, and then they made up for that little bit of wait time that we had by giving us free playmats in addition to the other prizes and promos that we were getting. So, they definitely more than made up for the slight setback that we had there in playing Pauper. Everyone left and was having a great time. Everyone was super chill and super happy to be there, which was a blast to be a part of. So definitely check out Pauper, check out a Grand Prix, and check out Magic because it's a super, super fun game. So that's going to do it for Pretty Dece for today. Thank you very much for joining me here on the show. Make sure that you like Pretty Dece on Facebook, facebook.com/PrettyDeceShow, that you follow me on Twitter @PrettyDeceShow, and that you visit PrettyDeceShow.com. I'll be back tomorrow for another daily episode. In the meantime, make sure you hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel, on the podcast, and inside the Anchor app so you never miss any of the content.